There's the Nike. Yeah, Nike. Nike had, there was one sweep. I think it was last week. You guys probably remember better than I do. That I was considering playing for a swing. I didn't realize they had earnings. That was the best sweep.
Nike upon EPS of 86 cents, an EPS of 86 cents, above the estimates for 70 cents. Revenue comes in at 10.7 billion. That's 10.7 billion. Also a beat on the estimates of 10.44 billion. Just to recap there, Nike upon EPS of 86 cents. Unclear if this is adjusted or not, but that is a beat on the estimates of 70 cents. And revenues coming at 10.7 billion, beating the estimates for 10.4 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the British Jesus we got over there. Hold on. We're recording, by the way. Welcome, everybody. We got a lot of members on here, and we're open to the public. So welcome to anybody who may be new out there with some of my Twitter friendlies. Let's go, where am I going here? Let's go here, and let's see if Twitter search can work here for a change. I could look at it in a room too. So today there was a lot of small piker sweeps for earnings today. There was one that was pretty decent. Where was it? September 9th. It might have been this one. No, that's not it. March. This is it. Let's see what the exercise down here. It's just got to be over here somewhere. Hold on. September 17th. This Twitter search is completely useless. I don't think this is it. This is a smaller order. It was a half decent order. Anyway, there was some flow in Nike, but I don't really pay attention to earnings flow, as you guys know, as a lot of you guys do the same anyway. So it was pretty much a waste. All right, so let's talk about today as Nike rips here. So those of you who maybe played the market, try to front run a sentiment squeeze, might get a little lucky here or a head start at the open. Was I, Wes? Well, there you go. I'm dizzy enough, Wes. You know me, so that was probably the problem then, huh? All right, let's talk about today because it was an interesting day, and there was a lot of noise out there today, right? You had a lot going on. You had Trump sounding like the Darth Vader, speaking to the world, right? I mean, he's bashing China as he's trying to negotiate a trade deal, so the market's not going to like that. But yeah, you get algo selling, and usually, buyers show up, especially when you got a little bull theme going. In my opinion, what went on today was, simply put, just a lack of buyers, right? A lot of us who have been following the flow this week, only 2 days in, but it was pretty obvious that the quality behind the action just wasn't there. It was a lot of cheap, speculative type buying. And, listen, it is what it is. It's not the end of the world, because a lot of times they can generate momentum and short-term trades and that stuff. But when you see too much of it, you just got to be careful. You got to be careful, because what happens is when that dries up, then you enter a period where if sellers want to grab the ball and there's a catalyst for some selling, we see too often where call sweepers will just go hibernate. Today, they just disappeared after the early morning, before even the selling really started, but they just disappeared. And as the selling continued and the market rolled over, a lot of times we'll see them come in and buy things. What we were hoping for recently, right? those of you who are members, we were talking about Sunday, how, initially we saw early signs of that rotation, right? We saw a major market event out of momentum, out of the safety stuff, where they've been crowded trades is the best way to label them, and rotate into value. And, the definition of value for me is stuff that nobody wanted for a long period of time. That's what it is, basically, So we saw a major shift, at least the start of it. And what we were hoping to see, okay, is a follow through, a continuation of that, okay? And it was set up perfectly, okay? What I mean by that is a lot of the names, Caterpillar is a poster child for that. Let me pull up a daily. Okay. GT, right, caught some action into that rally. So the reason, in my opinion, these things are now set up perfectly is because, we talk about this a lot on this webinar, right? After this, you don't want to chase a move like this, right? If you miss the bulk of the move, you want to allow, especially when you start seeing niners show up, a lot of times short-term sentiment will heat up around these spots as far as the overall market. You want to get a grip on that FOMO and wait for, at the least, a breather, okay? And a lot of times you will get even a more important answer to a significant question you were looking for, and that is, you're going to get an idea of whether buyers show up and selling is pretty much controlled, right? There's not much selling, or there's some support, and they're hanging on to these gains here. Nobody wants to give it up. And then buyers could show up here, and that's our tip-off that, could be a start of a new uptrend, okay? As opposed to what we've been seeing for, feels like, a decade, is this. Every time there's a squeeze, they roll them over, new lows, right? Squeeze, new lows, squeeze, new lows, squeeze, rolled over, right? So that's one of the main reasons you don't want to jump in after a major move like that initially, okay? So a lot of these names that caught what we were labeling at the time squeeze flow, but there was some big action in the middle of it, okay, are breathing off a niner, which is an exhaustion signal, right? Meaning buyers may get tired here. All right, so a lot of these names look like this for the most part, okay? So now what we want to see is we want to see sweepers step in here at some point, okay? Wherever it may be, right? Some go sideways, some may come down a little bit further than we thought. Whatever it may be, what the likelihood is, if these things are going to start a new uptrend and the rotation out of momentum, growth, safety that we've been seeing for a long time, if that actually comes to fruition, you're going to see aggressive buying. And here's the trick. It's not going to be in just one of these things. When they really want to get aggressive in these names, they get aggressive in all of them. You know what I mean? They don't come in and they just buy a Caterpillar and they stop there. Okay, similar to like when they buy, hot tech and growth, or the safety names, utilities, right? When they buy one utility, we usually see action in some of the others, right? They move in packs. All right. And if you think of it, for the most part, the likelihood is there's going to be some leaders that outperform, but for the most part, a lot of these things should move together. Maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but on a trend basis. Okay. So what we didn't see today, and you guys in the room, we were talking about this, right? The rotation theme that was out there and that we're trying to keep an eye on, we were seeing rotation out of those hot, crowded tech names, right? Roku continued to bleed. Netflix continues to bleed. Shop, Twilios, all those things still had, some more than others, still were experiencing selling. Okay. The problem was they weren't rotating in to anything. All right. And when you have that, right, when there's that side of the rotation gone, all you have is selling in those crowded names, and there's no buying going on, right? Because there's hardly any buying in these things. All the buying, like we're seeing, like Netflix, for example, which has been getting beat up for a while now, and it's not even in that category per se with some of the other crowded spots, okay? But it's in that FANG theme, and it's been a riffraff favorite for a long, long time. All right. But when we see a sweep in Netflix, even something we may consider, we'll go over one of them that I'll mention to you guys if you're looking for a squeeze. They're spec sweeps. They're looking for a short-term bounce. A lot of times you don't even know if you do see a bounce. You don't even know if you're going to see it in the open interest changes the next day. That's how quick they are. And, that's the type of play you're looking for. That's the type of flow that exists in those things for the most part. Okay. So we're not going to see, we're not seeing any quality action come into that area. We need to see the quality action come into the rotation names if this market wants to find a way to grind higher and keep this uptrend intact. All right. So, maybe these names that are being sold end up selling off enough to where buyers come in, and see an opportunity outside of a week, right? Maybe we see some buying 2 months out in these names because they were overdone to the downside. We were talking about this Sunday. My opinion, it's still too early for that, in my opinion. All right, but that the flow can show us something different, but we're not seeing any signs of that out of flow. All right. So what we were thinking is we need this rotation trade, and we need it to happen sooner than later. All right. So I think all the noise out there is an excuse for people. You look for a reason of what went on today, price action was. All right. But very easily on a day like today with the same exact noise, okay, the market would have been flat to up, right? It would have held on to some green because we were green this morning. And we would have been talking about, buying in Caterpillar, buying in Triple M, or buying in some of the cyclical or energy names or infrastructure names, that sort of thing. Okay, and we did not. So that was interesting, and that's my takeaway. So, I'm getting a lot of questions, and I even was questioning myself, and we were talking amongst friends over the weekend about this whole rotation theme. And if I remember correctly, a lot of times after you get this move like this, okay, you don't get that obvious follow through. Okay. In other words, you don't see buying just come in after a little breather and then boom, these things are going higher and everybody and their mother can hop on the rotation trade. Right? It's almost like that would be too good to be true. It would be too obvious to everybody. It happens gradually. Okay. Almost where you see the crowded names sell, and you see selling in these things too, enough to get the attention off of these things from the public. And then little by little, you start to see bull flow come into the right spots. All right, so that's what we're keeping an eye on. And listen, we're going into earnings season, right? So that could be a very important aspect of all this too, of why nobody wants to stick out their neck. I mean, hell, nobody was talking about it, right? I mentioned this a lot, but I think it was so important because of the Fed and because of Trump and the tariffs and all that jazz. Nobody was talking about FedEx when they reported, okay, which usually is the most important thing going on in the market because it's a bellwether on the global economy, right? And, I know what I was looking for. I was hoping they'd sell FedEx after a move like this and then they would just soak up that weakness where buyers would show up, right? You would see it maybe lower in the aftermarket or and start to rally back, or lower the following day and you see flow and it starts to rally back, or a bit lower to maybe right here and buyers show up a couple of days later. This thing got slapped. Okay, so what this tells us, pretty cut and dry here, the negative news that came out of that quarter, I don't even care what they said, is not factored in. And I think that's the takeaway out of the FedEx quarter. And I'm guessing, but maybe an excuse for buyers to hold back on that rotation and trade and say, wait a second. We're going into earnings season, right? We're going into a little blackout period where corporations can't buy and all. You don't want to get stuck in something like this after a move like this, right? If you can avoid it. So why not wait to at least see a few other names report and see the reaction to their numbers and the guidance? All right, so that could be the reason why I think it has stalled on the buy side of this whole rotation trade. All right, but pretty clean and simple here. If you're not interested in all that stuff, like I just mentioned, right? The simple approach is just to keep an eye out on the price action and flow. That's all that matters, right? If these things start to act better while some of the riffraff names are selling, and we start seeing bull flow in these things, okay, that's going to be an important and a positive signal that these things are in play. All right, and you guys know the reasons why I'm all caught up on this rotation, okay? Because when this is not a minor event. When this thing happens, it happens bigly. You know what I mean? Like, this is a big deal. And the start of it goes unnoticed, right? Because what happens is you get a choppy uptrend for the most part. So you get, this thing comes down here, people forget about it, see some flow, but the trade war looks scary, the economy looks scary, and then this thing starts to head higher, right? And then before you know it, you're like, wow, that was a nice move at a Caterpillar now, right? And then she goes into another choppy breather, right? You take your eyes off it, and then, grinds higher, shakes some people out, grinds higher, chop for 2 weeks, higher. And then you look 3 months later, and you're like, what? When did Caterpillar get up to 145? How the hell did that happen? And then what follows after that, it's not like they die there. The bigger move comes after that when the public, when their eyes finally catch up to that trade. And that's where you get, that's where you get these things moving in packs, right? Good old X, the piece of garbage. And they do this, right? So you get, this is what I'm talking about off the lows. Drives you nuts unless, you have some conviction in that rotation taking place. And then when the public finally catch up on it and the institutions have to get in because they have no exposure and everybody's in chase mode, this happens. And it's game over, right? The same old story. And, look at like the downtrend in X. I mean, this thing is the biggest piece of garbage on the face of the earth right now. And it was right here too, guys. I don't know if you guys were trading back then, and I remember it like it was yesterday. This thing was awful. Awful back then. So that's, I think, the most important thing to keep an eye on from this point here. Because there's a lot of upside, and I know a lot of you guys swing trade and position trade, and that's where I think the biggest risk reward out there in the market is over time right now. Okay, I know everyone is mesmerized, by these Rokus of the world and all that stuff. All right, for me, a lot of these things have had their run already, you know? Yeah, there is a chance that we go into a 1999 style event where, you know, these things come down, but they usually come down 40% off their highs. In 1998, you know, a lot of the leaders, a lot of the big, hot, crowded names, 40, 50% off their highs, minimum. And then went to new highs. You know, so there is the possibility for that. All right. But for that scenario, I think we have a lot of downtime and a lot of tough trading waiting for these to set up again if they're not going to rotate. All right. But again, the flow and the price action is what eventually is going to signal stronger than anything else early enough for you to find a decent entry on whichever scenario ends up playing out. All right. So we go into earnings, and you guys know I'm not a big earnings season fan. I hate earnings, right? But I think it's important to watch a lot of this stuff and to see, again, not to sound like a broken record, but the price action and the flow and what it looks like off their numbers. Everything. Because I think that's where we're going to see where the big money is going to start to position for the end of the year. If they do, maybe, right? Maybe they don't buy anything. Right? Maybe they don't buy anything and we go into a full-fledged bear market. I don't think the odds of that are high right now because of the exposure out there. There's not a lot of hedge fund money. Institutions are just starting to get back in. You know what I mean? There's not enough people caught long in the market as a whole, I think, for a full-fledged bear market here, in my opinion. All right. I think there's risk still in these things, without a doubt. Okay, because all the money's there, but you got 3/4 of the market that's unowned. You know, so that's why I think the more likely scenario is going to be rotation, and then after that would be that they think these things come down far enough for at least an intermediate term rally. You know, so maybe let's say not new highs even, but you get a rally to, like, you know, a top of a downtrend, and then you're going back down again, that sort of thing. All right, just some things to watch out for. But like I said, if it's confusing, the easier approach is to just basically keep an eye on the flow and the price action. An even easier approach, if you're in the room and you're new to all this and you feel like it's overwhelming, is to just keep an eye, if you're on private Twitter, to my commentary, you know, on a day-to-day basis. That's why you're here. And if you're in the room, you hear my mouth all day long. And just, you know, pay attention to what I may be sharing as far as what's taking place in the flow. All right. I don't try to push certain stock picks on you, where to buy them, where to sell them, types of trade. One thing I would urge you guys to do if you're members is, you know, pay attention to the commentary around the flow. The flow means nothing. There's call buyers and put buyers every day in this market, right? You have to take a step back and see the big picture. And a lot of times it's digging into the flow, not just in that name, but around it and everything else, to get an idea of what, you know, the professional money and how they may be positioning in the options market. All right. Anybody have any insight or any questions on, you know, the couple things to keep an eye out as far as intermediate term theme out there? Okay. Other than that, guys, everything so far up to this point, I think, has been okay, right? You got the niner here. At the least, we were even hoping for a breather, because you don't want to see a rally through that niner. That means big trouble, right? You're going to have sentiment scorched if you rally continuously through that niner. So I think we got something ideal here. Not only a pause, but a little pull with it. And that's going to leave us a lot of room for potential upside on not just names, but even if you're looking to play the ETF, SPY, NES, SPX, whatever the case may be. Okay, and the reason why I say that, here's why I say that. Okay, let's say, for example, tomorrow we open up soft. All right, and this is the other thing I wanted to share with you guys. Let's say tomorrow we open up soft, right? We're already set up as far as short-term sentiment is concerned for a squeeze. We're set up. Okay, even if we're not there with the end of the day and the indicators that we look at later tonight when they update, okay, we're close enough to where if the market's soft early on or even sells into the day, we need to start looking for entries for a squeeze. All right, so even simply put, if you're playing the indices, okay, and right now that's not the worst idea because the individual names right now, we have no clue. I have no clue what's going on, right? There's not a single takeaway at a flow as far as a theme yet in individual names. So your best bet would likely be play something that's you feel confident it's going to move with the indices, all right? But if we do get a soft open, right, or flattish open, and there are some signs, any signs of sweeper activity into that, even more so if we see those VXX put sweepers and some of the stronger sweeper signs out there. But you'd be playing for that snapback squeeze. And the reason I say room, when you're playing for that snapback squeeze or short-term sentiment, you don't need a move to new highs, right? That's the point. So in other words, if you're buying up here, you need to move to new highs. And the likelihood is there's nobody caught short, right? This thing already squeezed. So now you got some bears getting involved here. May not be a whole lot, but you got some bears getting involved here. So you could get a squeeze back here just at the top of the range, and that would be a nice trade off that short-term sentiment. All right? And if we see some real deal flow, all right, like I just went over, then this can line up as a real nice entry for even a move to that higher high. All right, so that's the difference for me. Like if we see, again, to break it down in simple terms, if we see them come in tomorrow into weakness and they just get super aggressive, right, and in anything, right, like real deal sweeps where there's 5, 6 legit names that catch some real action, then depending on how you feel, you can play for that move larger than just a snapback. Okay, but if the flow is not there in individual names, again, this is my opinion from my experience, and you're just playing for a sentiment squeeze, just that, then I think you don't want to get too greedy because we could still be in breather mode and you're just looking for that tactical trade, the in-between. Make sense? All right. But a lot of good has come out of just this, right? Because up here, right, all the put to call ratios were extremely low. We spoke about that. Short-term trader sentiment, that was hot, right? All that stuff we look at. The gamma we've been paying attention to, flip to the complete other side. That's another thing that's going to be lined up here. Right? So you're going to have gamma exposure, on your side here if you catch the turn, which should add some more juice to the move. All right, so right there basically is the breakdown of what we need to keep an eye on for, right? The short-term sentiment squeeze is in the playbook right now, no matter what. And then if we do see some real action come in, rotation names especially, that's where we got to get serious. Because here's how this is what I want to do. Obviously, that short-term squeeze off sentiment, that's one of my favorite short-term trades. You guys know that. Okay, so that's on my plate no matter what. But what I want to do, okay, the ideal scenario would be I want to start building a nice little basket of these out of favor names, hopefully that catch real action with time. With time. In other words, I don't care if they move over the next week, right? I want to go into next year and I want to own, a Goodyear tire or a cat or an MMM. There's so many names that we don't even talk about. All these things are dogs, disasters. Look at these things. So the flow is going to tell us whether these things are ready. And like I said, for even more confidence, you want to see a laundry list of these names. Remember the action we were talking about coming out of the December correction into January? Remember we were talking about how broad the flow was, how they were hitting everything, every name you could possibly imagine they were hitting. And that's the way you want to see the flow look. Obviously, it's not going to come in the hot names that they're rotating out of, but all these names that you didn't want to touch for ages would catch action. This is another one of my favorites, caught a little bit of action recently, URI, which I think should be on, your screen now anyway, off the action that already caught. This is picture perfect, because this is like quality, right? It's not the dog of a Manitowoc or US Steel that really looks like a shit show, excuse my French. But this thing's been under pressure for a while, right? You can see it pretty clear. And if this thing ever gets hot, trip to new highs, especially in options, guys, you could take the approach, you buy with some time, and you're willing to lose what you put into these calls and build a basket. And if these things make that move, you know what I mean? If these things make a move like this, you're going to get paid in a big way. Right? This is not looking at what's Apple going to do tomorrow or the next 10 minutes. Now, this is all stuff you want, at the least, want to start building positions for next year and try to, we say it now, right? Catch a move like this. As soon as we get a decent rally, we're ready to sell it. But, that's what the reward is on these things if they ever catch. Like, look at these moves, right? You would never think it. You guys follow this stock? URI? Anybody in here follow URI by any chance? Or trade URI? Lately? Yeah, cash. When these things are in play, there's no better name. No better name. You took a stab on the Decembers already? That's Ed. That's a good move. That's a good move. So at least even you got your eyeballs on it now, That's a good move. Right? You know the name, you're watching the price action, you know how it trades, you only got a small piece. Yeah, Cash, that's my plan. That's what I want to do. And I want the flow to kind of guide me, Cash, and kind of guide me in what, as far as how aggressive I want to be, right? The more aggressive they are, the more aggressive I'll be, right? The more names they hit, the bigger the basket I'll have. And because that's how I like, for me, for the most part, when it comes to like swing trading, that's been kind of my bread and butter. And I haven't really done that in a long time. I don't like to be so quick on everything, because I'm day trading, I'm flipping. I rather like have a position in the URI with some time. The flow's behind me. I'm not stressing the up and down on a day-to-day basis. The stock goes down 2 days later. With options, you panic, right? You're in weeklies, front month. You look forward to any weakness in these things. Because when you have the conviction and the flow's there, more importantly, you can add, you know? You can add to it. All right, so that's the theme there. All right, and that's the playbook, and that's what we're looking for. Again, if you're in the room private Twitter, all you got to do is open your ears, and I'll be screaming about it. You guys will know it, a lot of you by experience, when that action comes. All right. Other than that, in the meantime, again, every trader is different. We've been talking about this a lot with members. I don't have much confidence or conviction in anything else. The only trade, overnight trade, that I have any sort of confidence in is the sentiment squeeze snapback short term. That's it. You know, because I know more than not, I'm going to catch, you know, a half decent trade over the extreme short term in it. That's the only thing. And you're going to allow and wait for that setup, right? And be able to take advantage of it. But the problem is the in-between, like leading up to now. You know, you see flow, right? We're going to see flow no matter what. You see spec action here, spec action there, and you take the needle and you want to play, but you got to try to limit the damage. You got to try to limit the damage. Which one? Yeah, what's up, Warrior? What stock you talking about? Oh, URI. I got it. Oh, Ed. All right. Ed, I didn't realize you were Warrior Eddie in the room. My apologies. I thought you two different people here I'm talking to. All right. So here is, let me post the action for today. There were a couple bets, nothing major that caught my eye today. One in particular, maybe you guys know something about the name. I was asking a couple of you in the room. Some of you said maybe a takeover target. Hold on. All right. So this is the top bets, top bull bets for today. All right. So this, in my opinion, was the action of the day. Could it be earnings related? Very possible. All right. They did go further out though, right? February. So I like that rather than target, you know, October or even November, right around earnings. Okay. But they came after it with some decent size. There were a couple sweeps involved down here. Okay. Because I obviously want to see sweeper activity there. And it came after, you know, a couple of these blocks. So that's a good sign as well. You know, decent amount for this name. And I don't remember ever seeing action in this name, let alone this size. It's an insurance name. Anybody know what the hell this thing is? Athene Holdings? Is this health insurance? Is it that simple? Or? Nobody's heard of this? All right, so I just showed you the action. They come in, they hit Febs. Like a lot of rotation names, you know, like a lot of the rotation names we were looking at a little bit earlier. You had a big run here, a niner here. So you kind of want a breather. You got a little breather here. So you could probably even wait a bit on it since they're Febs if you're looking for a little bit more of a breather. Life insurance. Why the hell would they be sweeping this thing like this? Now, that's the only negative out of everything that, you know, the action in this name is that the group, you know, I'm not crazy about this life insurance group. Lotto, you know this name? Yeah, insurance has been hot, but this thing doesn't look hot. Insurance has been the best of the financials. So you think just basically rotation into the group? I have it on my, there was news yesterday. What kind of news? Oh, buyout chatter in the sector, you mean? Gotcha. Yeah, Lotto mentioned that too just now about maybe potential somebody's looking at the name. All right. But all of this action, must, for me, a must put on my screen no matter what. Came in late in the day, and a name not to catch action like this. So definitely have an interest. Toll Brothers, caught some decent action. The sweep wasn't anything huge, small sweep, cheap, I should say. There was a little action around it. I think it traded about 3,000 plus total, 3,500 around there. And that's a home builder. You guys know the scoop there. Home builders have been solid. Making its way back. And believe it or not, Toll doesn't even look as good as some of the others, right? Look at DHI. No, I didn't play that one. That was another one that caught action, more of an under the radar home builder. I wasn't crazy about the spot cash off a run like that. That was the only reason, but the action is impressive. The action was definitely impressive. Yeah, that's the only thing that turned me off. Otherwise, you had a nice move there. All right, but so today Toll was the home builder they played. I didn't see much action in any of the other homies. All right, this was another sweep, came off the open. KN, this has been a strong stock. More of an unusual sweep than anything serious as far as dollar amount. You can see this thing's been doing the right thing, whatever they're doing. Knowles. This might be a chatter name too. But you see some action in these things, like a clock. Look at the clock, right? We saw some action in it. Looks a lot different than most of the tech names and semi names, and this thing just keeps going. I have no idea what they're doing different. Obviously, they're doing something different. But this KN, if this is more of your cup of tea, yeah, you got a little choppiness here. So you're not chasing a parabolic move or anything. All right, and here's your little spec play in big names. I didn't really see anything else. This was the only real quote unquote clean sweep in any of the names you guys like to trade. Netflix, this is the type of action you're going to see there, unless somebody steps in big, into the group eventually. But weekly 260 calls, and they paid 236. Came later in the day. Into blood, obviously. Look at this. This thing's under pressure, like a lot of these popular names. Also, you had Boeing catch a couple sweeps, but she moved. She moved off the sweeps. There were a couple of weekly sweeps, cheap, nothing spectacular, but a couple of cheap weekly 390, and then they swept late the 400s, I think they were. And you had to move there. Nano. Oh, so Clack, I'm being told Nano. That's why it's so hot. Incredible. Incredible. It kind of annoys me, Master, because, I like when the groups catch it. So, you know what I mean? You got the wind at your back. The whole group is strong type of thing. They kind of move together. This one it's marching to the beat of its own drum. Like the semis were hot, and then they went into a little breather mode, as they should. This thing, there's no such thing as a breather. Just keeps going and going. All right. Another thing, guys, I want to add, just in case you missed the webinar, if you members Sunday, you take a look across the board as far as sectors are concerned. You know how we like to do that more for an intermediate time frame. And you had a lot of things that were just too hot, which tells us, risk reward wise, it's not too appealing, right? The semis were hottish. The financials were hot. You had a lot of things hot, because that rally was pretty strong. The rally was pretty strong. I mean, all these things. Now they're breathing. So, you see, like all that sector heat that we were looking at, there you go. I'll get it back down to neutral at least. Netflix call sellers were a key. Yeah, well, that's not bullish for sure. But that Netflix, they're just turning it upside down right now. They're turning a lot of those things upside down. They finally got to the Roku, right? Shop, they finally got to. Like, look at this. You guys, we were talking about this ad nauseum on these webinars, right? When you get this, you never know when the music's going to stop. But if you're a swing trader, right, or you're trading positions, why, it's only FOMO. Why are you going to look to take a position up here a couple of months out and roll the dice that you're going to beat this from showing up? All right, that's what we talk about risk reward. You're betting what's going to come first. Enough of a move to the upside or the wash. And when the wash comes, it's going to be hard because look at this move. This is nuts. Roku was just as nutty. And software names were nuts. They were all nuts. And crowded, the term crowded, later, Bill, have a good night. Crowded, when you hear the word crowded, all the money, right? You see these names that we're talking about, the Caterpillars of the world and all that, right? Nobody wants to own these things for good reason. You can't make any money in these things. So what happens is all the money that comes into the market, right? They park it in the strong stuff, right? FANG for years. And then that doesn't last forever for obvious reasons. When it finally reaches a point where everybody already bought and now there's a catalyst for selling, this is what you get. And a lot of times they go dead for a while. Well, that's the risk anyway. That's the risk, even if you're looking at them now. A lot of times they can go dead for a while. They still can be traded, right? There's still moves in between. But as far as you take, as a swing trader taking a position going a couple months out, these things are still dangerous in my opinion, especially without any flow across the board in them. Anybody else have anything to add or any questions about anything we mentioned so I don't tie up? AMD cash, I think, in my opinion, the AMD weekly action, I think, is for Micron earnings. That and NVIDIA. I could be wrong. It's just a guess. But you got Micron Thursday. And a lot of times what they'll do is because Micron, the juice is so jacked up IV-wise, they get a bigger bang for their buck playing an AMD. So that's the only, and listen, as far as that trade is concerned, if you did the same, if you played AMD for a play on Micron earnings, you're not dead yet. I mean, you played it for earnings. That's Thursday. Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, those, what were they, 20 cents, those calls? That's, they're junk. Those are roll the dice junk. Yeah, put it this way, and Cash, I'm not talking to you, but just in general, so you guys know, that type of action, somebody's not making a bet on AMD, the company, right? You're not having a hedge fund come in, or any syndicate for that matter, who's moving around size and saying, I love this AMD, I love this product, I'm going to build a massive position in it, and I'm buying weeklies. That's not happening. It's spec action. And listen, you take the good with the bad, okay? The spec activity, right, is more inclined to go down, meaning you lose money. But at the same time, there's a lot of money to be made too. I mean, there's a lot of spec action that you see you guys cashing tickets on left and right. But you got to understand that, just because AMD, they end up carrying like 50, 60,000 of those calls for 20 cents, that can easily go down and me not be surprised. I'm more shock cash when we see those bull combos, risk reversals, you know what I mean? Those names when they go down. And they go down too. Because the player's losing, he's taking a nice hickey on those, but they take nice hickeys. I mean, you guys know the game. There's no way around losing, but if you ask me, is the spec action worth playing? Without a doubt. If you manage your money properly, right, and you keep it to the point where if you have more losers than winners, you're going to be profitable, then you're going to make money with these spec delays. But if your whole year is evolving around AMD weeklies, this one time, I need this one to click this one time. If this one time clicks, I'm a believer. You know what I mean? It means nothing. Even if this AMD gapped up today, what does it mean? It's one trade. Does it mean your next one's going to be a winner? And the next one after that's going to be a winner? You can lose the next 4 straight. Exactly. It doesn't work that way. There's an edge in this game. That's what we focus on a day-to-day basis, right? We know that if you stick to initial activity, right, and don't chase, you're going to have more success. We know if you're playing when sentiment's on your side and not against you, you're going to have more success. But all it does is tilt the odds in your favor a little bit. That's all it does, right? We talked about that. So if you buy something, right, and you have a 50-50 chance of you making money or losing money on that trade, right? With the stuff we look at, if now all of a sudden it's 70-30, who's better than you? If you can't make money off those odds, then you have to get out of this game, right? If the odds are 60-40 in your favor off, right? If you have confidence that by paying attention to the sweeper activity and sentiment, that your odds now are 60-40 in your favor of making money rather than 50-50, then this is something you need to pound the table on and make money on, because this is what this game's all about. But you like how I'm drawing here, right? I'm practicing. I need to get better at it. So, but if you think that just because you're looking at sentiment and flow, right, and you think your odds are now 99% to 1%, send me your money. I'll pretend we're playing it, and then I'll send you half back, and you'll feel like you made money. You only lost half your money. No? That's it. That's gambling right here in a nutshell, guys. I told you guys this story. Steven, you'll appreciate this. the professional gamblers, I was around a lot of them throughout my whole childhood because my father was a degenerate gambler, right? What do you think the guys, they never worked a day in their life. All they did was gamble for a living, right? And were wealthy. You know, not billionaires, but wealthy. What do you think percentage-wise they were hitting at? High 50s. High 50s. High 50s. Okay? You were God if you hit at a 60% clip in bowl games. All right? But do the math. It's not, you don't need to be Einstein. If you bet 5 dimes a game, right? If you bet 5,000 a game and you hit at 60%, you make a nice little salary there, no? Right? At 100 games, you go 60-40. So you're plus 20 games minus the VIG, let's say 15 games times 5 dimes a game. There you go. All right, but if they treated that profession like they needed to hit 95% clips, otherwise they were going to keep searching for that unicorn to get them to hit 95%, they wouldn't be able to do it. They'd be dead. Exactly. It really is. It really is. You know, risk management is as important as it gets. You know, it really is. And it all comes down to sizing and that stuff. You know, everybody wants. The problem is and me included, everybody. We all want to make a dent now. You understand? We want the dent now. Forget what's going to happen over the course of the next year. We want the dent, right? I want this AMD weekly action. I want to roll the dice, and I want to take out a 6-figure trade right now, just because I want to. That's where you get in trouble in this game. You know, when you focus on the one trade, that's when you get in trouble. But it is what it is, you know. I'm no psychologist. It is what it is. Yeah. True. Very true. Yeah. And that's, Master, I would say that would be my biggest recommendation. All right. If you haven't found consistency yet in this game, just take a step back, size down, and start to focus on the bigger, larger picture at it. Forget that what's going to happen to this play right now. It means nothing. Winner or loser, this one means nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? And evaluate what you start to do over time. Take it nice and easy, right? Because here's the thing that people don't realize too. And you got, you know, on Twitter Finance, these gurus who claim, oh yeah, I bought those contracts at a quarter and they went to $20. I didn't sell them at 20. I sold them at like 13, but still, you know, a gazillion %. The problem is that's possible, that trade. I'm not saying that's not possible, but no matter what, if you're not taking that step back and looking at the big picture and focusing more than just one trade, right? And not managing your bankroll properly, what's going to happen? You'll see it happens to every trader when they start out. They could be up 300%, but when it's all said and done, when the losers offset the winners, it comes down to a more realistic number. No matter what, it ends up there. No matter what, it's going to end up there. I don't care if you hit your first 3 trades in a row, it's always going to end up there. If you're not, not doing the things you need to do. So that's why I would definitely recommend Master taking a more methodical approach to things. And to do that, you're going to have to size down if your losers are annoying you that much. You know, you're going to have to size down so you can think a little clearer and do the things you need to do. You know, but that's what it comes down to, guys. You know, whether you're a member or not, all the stuff we look at, you know, sentiment and flow, they're just tilting odds in your favor. You know, by enough margin that if you do what you need to do, you can find some consistency. That's what it comes down to. You're going to get hot, right? There are going to be times you're knocking the ball out of the park. There are going to be times where you run into a couple of unlucky situations. Usually they all offset, and it comes down to, like Cash is saying, your money management and your edge. That's what it comes down to. That's what it ends up coming down to. All right, guys, so to sum it all up, before I let you run here and you go and enjoy the rest of your evening, okay, two things we're keeping an eye out. We already got one on the table. If we, hopefully, no gap up tomorrow, we got that short-term squeeze. All right, we'll see what sentiment looks like this evening, but we're going to be close no matter what. All right, but bigger picture, you know what we're looking out for. All right, the flow will tell us everything bigger, the larger picture of things here. What's Bitcoin doing? I heard it got beat up. That might have a bullish sentiment signal tonight. Really? Let me see. Oh, yo, that's going to have a bullish sentiment signal. Bitcoin. What happened? What's the news? Any news? Did something happen? Really? Nothing? Interesting. Yeah, well, if you trade Bitcoin and you're curious about where sentiment is, you're going to have a bullish signal out of this, without a doubt. That's what was missing, the flush. Because every time it got down here, you got close, you never got, actually you got it, I think you might have got it at one of these lows. But the point is it got close several times. And that's what we're talking about. You would need a shakeout like this. So here it is. That's your shakeout. Buy cash. Long the Bitcoin. If I had a digital purse, I might buy some, you know? But I kind of like Nipple a little better. What's she trading at? I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy your night. Be good. Good luck the rest of the week. Have a good one.